fire crackled against the mountain wind, throwing orange light against the circle of wide-eyed listeners. The scent of pine needles and ash curled up into the night sky. Just beyond the light, a black slope stretched down into the hollow where no one dared to pitch a tent, not since the incident. The man who knew the story best leaned forward, his face cast in flickering shadows. It started with a group of researchers who weren't like the rest, he began. They weren't there for fossils or cave systems. They were esoteric historians, following a trail of a name not even whispered in academic circles anymore. Labasu. The name lingered in the air like smoke. They came from different backgrounds. One was an Arabic scholar who had studied ancient grimoires. Another was a linguistics obsessed with untranslated tablets found in a closed dig near Eridu. The leader, a woman named Celine, had reportedly deciphered part of an older Mesopotamian manuscript that had never been catalogued. In that fragment, a phrase had appeared that matched symbols on a stone stela buried beneath this very hill. The hill was marked only in a few medieval maps. It was shaped like a cone and strangely symmetrical, as though nature had formed it for some hidden reason. Some claimed it was a burial mound. Others believed it had no earthly origin. Celine and her team believed it was a gate, a sealed door between worlds. They called it the Hill of the Sealed Door, not because of its outward appearance, but because of what lay inside. The map referenced a chamber made not of stone, but of compacted soil burned black by what the text called the breath of Labasu. The ancient manuscript described Labasu not as a god, but as a wrathful force, an entity buried beneath the earth by the seven who rose in radiance. No other text mentioned them again. The dig began without permits or fanfare. Celine's group worked quietly, moving soil under the cover of forest canopy, relying only on old tools and instinct. They camped at the base of the hill and dug by hand, ignoring the warnings of locals who spoke of strange lights and sounds from the slope. After 3 nights of digging, they found it, a perfectly rectangular seam in the earth, packed so tightly that water pooled around its base without soaking through. The black clay around it felt warm. The moment it was uncovered, the forest around them became silent. No insects, no wind, just a stillness that pressed against the skull. They waited until nightfall to begin the ritual Celine had planned. The words were reconstructed from Akkadian phonetics, resembling invocations found in the Greek magical papyri, laced with Semitic vocalizations and what appeared to be early forms of vocus magicae. They recited them around the seam, lighting resin infused torches placed in iron holders carved with geometric symbols. Each torch was meant to represent a sephira on an ancient diagram. 10 flames illuminated a circle, and then the earth groaned. At first, the sound was faint, like shifting gravel beneath the mountain, but then the torches flickered in unison, not from wind, but from something pulling the flames inward. The black seam cracked open, not in the way a stone might split, but like skin parting under pressure. The emerged was not air, but a low, throbbing hum that vibrated through the soles of their boots and into their teeth. Celine dropped to her knees. The others followed, not from fear, but because something inside them seemed to collapse under the weight they could not see. One of the team, a man named Havel, began to mutter uncontrollably, not in his own language, but in a dialect no one recognized. Later, Celine said she recognized it as a corrupted Chaldean liturgical form, words that had no translation, only function. A shadow rose from the visor. It did not move with mass, but with suggestion, as though the firelight bent around it instead of revealing it. The air became thick with a scent like hot metal and rotting flowers. Celine stood up and reached towards it. Her eyes turned entirely black, reflecting not the fire, but a distant light from somewhere behind the shadow. She spoke the name, Labasu. The hill trembled. The torches snapped sideways, extinguishing one by one as a pressure wave moved outward from the visor. Only Celine stood in its path. The others fell unconscious or paralyzed. Something passed over them like a fog that whispered and clawed at their thoughts, pulling secrets from their past and flooding their minds with images that they could not understand. Some saw shapes in the darkness, wills within wills, faces with no mouths, stars weeping blood into oceans that boiled with unseen creatures. Celine spoke again, but her voice was not her own. It rang in a threefold tone, layered like chords from a broken instrument. Her body convulsed, and from the visor came a whisper, not made with lungs or tongue, but through the bones of the earth itself. You have opened the eyes that sleeps beneath. Later, the survivors would describe the next few minutes as fragmented. Some remembered symbols burning into the walls of the chamber. Others recall a white tree covered with roses that bled from the thorns. And at the center of it all, a disc floating above a pit, a mirror that reflected not your image, but your potential. If you looked into it, you did not see yourself. You saw what you would become if you made a certain choice or failed to. Celine walked into the visor. No one stopped her. The shadow closed behind her, sealing again like skin. The warmth vanished. The black clay cooled instantly. The torches sputtered and went cold. Havel screamed and did not stop until dawn. Morning came like a blade. The forest felt wrong in daylight, as though the trees were trying to pretend nothing had happened. The birds returned, but sang in stuttering, confused patterns. When the team awoke fully, they found the scene in the earth sealed once more. No trace of heat, no sign of the black clay. Celine was gone. All that remained was the iron torch stand where she had stood, melted into the shape of a rose curling around a spiral eye. The authorities were not contacted. The survivors disbanded. Some entered monasteries, others disappeared entirely. Havel, who had muttered in that unknown tongue, lost the ability to speak any modern language and spent his remaining years drawing elaborate diagrams, trees filled with serpents and suns, locked inside pyramids. One image appeared over and over again, a circle of 10 stars surrounding a disk with a single word beneath it, Labasu. Years passed. The place where it happened was marked only by absence. Nothing would grow there. Animals avoided it. A camper who tried to pitch his tent on the slope during a summer hike was found days later walking barefoot in the rain, eyes white as milk, whispering about voices beneath the roots. They say, if you go there now, under the right stars, you can hear the hill breathe. Not the wind, something deeper, something slower. And they say, if you dig, you might find the seam again. But no one dares dig, not after what was found in the journal of a young linguist who went back one last time. He returned alone, carrying only a copy of the ancient manuscript Celine had once studied. His journal described new insights. He believed that Labasu was not a god in the conventional sense, but a primordial intelligence, an inverted reflection of the human soul, a guardian of thresholds. He wrote of voices that taught in dreams, of geometry that shifted when watched too closely, of a scent that arrived before the presence did. Burnt flowers, always. The final entry in his journal read, "The rose is not a flower. It is a door, each petal a bell, each thorn a choice. I have seen through it, and the eye sees me back. I no longer fear Labasu. I fear what I will become because of him." They found his camp undisturbed, his journal still warm from his hands, but he was gone. And when the investigators returned to the slope, they noticed something, a strange warmth in the soil and a faint line, perfectly rectangular, pressed into the ground like a seam waiting to be opened.